Good evening, Randomania and Free Enterprise fans. Welcome to tonight's match between Penguin8r and a Stone Dingley here in the table stages of the Threemus Zone. I am Hupfin, joined here on the mic by Sheep Launcher. Sheep, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Hupfin. How are you?
I'm holding up pretty well. Uh, we are at this point solidly into the table phase of everything. We see Penguin8r has a pretty sizable record already. Sheep, would you mind just like running down where our two runners kind of stand in this stage of the tournament?
Sure, there are 32 runners left in the table stage. The top 16 get to advance into the bracket round. 4 wins, as Penguinator has, means he has 1 foot into the brackets already. He's looking to get into the top 4, which means he gets to choose the opponents in those brackets. 5-1 might be able to do it for him. So Penguinator certainly looking for a win today. He is one of the pre-tournament favorites, showing why with his play so far. A Stone Dingley, meanwhile, got here via the Magma play-in, the second Magma play-in race. He's 0-1 so far in the Lunar table, a dark horse coming in, but a very talented runner.
Absolutely, and he's definitely going to be hoping to get that first win here, kind of play extra spoiler against Penguinator, and of course you need all the wins that you can get. And it looks like this could be actually a kind of quick seed. All things really hinge on that Baron key. Looking at the objective set that we do have one objective up on the moon doing the Vanilla Ribbon Room, but then 2 of them, unlocking the sewer and liberating Baron Castle, both of them locked behind the same key item.
Yeah, so the Baron key is non-negotiable in this seed. 2 objectives are locked behind that Baron key, so it's all going to depend. The Baron key could be someplace easy like the Antlion Cave. It could be someplace challenging like behind the Ogo Pogo altar on the moon. It's all going to depend where that is. These runners certainly are going to look for that. As a reminder, you only need 3 objectives out of these 4, but since 2 of them are guarded by the Baron key is non-negotiable, and it looks like we have a Cecil start, which is all kinds of interesting, Hupton.
Oh, absolutely. This whole tournament we have been playing with the vanilla agility on. So when you don't have Cecil in the party, it's whoever is sitting in the middle of the group, the middle slot in the party. They determine your agility in terms of how fast bosses attack, how fast your party moves. But when Cecil's around, it's vanilla. He's your anchor. And so when we're starting with him, we're now forced to deal with that fact. So
Yes, and a lot of runners would rather try to avoid that. There's no avoiding it here. The first character is the only one that you're forced to take. Everybody else, you have the option of ditching, but once you recruit a character to join, they are with your party forever. And it looks like we are underway.
We are underway to see Golbez hanging out in Baron Castle, somewhat lore appropriate, but also a very good and frightening information given our set of objectives. Palom ends up being the first character as a potential recruit. Penguinator says yes, Dingley says no.
The buy flag is on, which means that any character you reject will be available at the Tower of Wishes in Mysidia for you to pick up later. But Dingley might be keeping his options open, but Penguinator decides that Black Mage, he's for me.
Yeah, Palom has absolutely been a sizable favorite, especially in this table stage. Folks love to get a couple of Black Mages going, get them slingshotted up to very high levels, and then just nuke their way to oblivion. Dingley might be thinking about that strategy, might be thinking a different approach if the characters shake out better for it.
Both runners stopping by Baron Inn finds a White Mage Porum there, guarded by a Leviathan in that first spot. And then Dingley going up to the other character checks, going to the Watery Pass to loot out there, see who the character is, and try and fill out this party a little bit.
That Palom is probably worth fighting for, you always would rather have Rosa for, I would say, 90% of the cases. But a white mage is a valuable part of the party, and it doesn't matter which one it is. And a second Cecil could actually be a valuable part of the party. With vanilla agility on, the game does always base your agility off Cecil, but if you have multiple, it has to pick one. And so it goes back to that nearest to middle approach. And therefore, you can have the power of a strong Paladin Cecil and the slowness of a dead Paladin Cecil.
And that's always nice to have because you can manipulate which Cecil gets up to what level fairly easily. Leave one on the floor, give the other a nice holy sword, and that's certainly what these runners are going to be going after. In addition to the agility shenanigans, Cecil really needs, in order to be Z fight ready, needs a sword, and at least an Avenger or a lightsaber, preferably an Excalibur or a Crystal Sword, to really make him effective.
Yeah, that Drain Sword that Stone Dingley found over in Damsian, I mean, that's an early mid-game kind of thing. That's what you might throw on him right off of Mount Ordeals just to give him something slightly better. But it's not the kind of high-tier weapon that you really want on your main damage dealer going into Zeromus. And on the subject of Damsian, we find Rydia up at the top of the ruined castle, so she is an option.
And an interesting option. Rydia has been one of those, if you're comfortable with her and slingshotting her, she can be very devastating throughout the late game. She's kind of had her image rehabilitated a bit in this tournament.
I mean, I've always been a fan of throwing Rydia in the party just because I'm always a fan of finding a Bahamut summon and just mega nuking everything. But that's not always a viable option, certainly with this treasure and shop flag set that we've got going on. That kind of high quality item, that kind of high quality find is a little less common.
That waterfall boss, checked by Stone Dingley, is King Queen Eblin, so that's a free boss off the table.
And that's a wall on the mountain with yet another Dark Knight.
Are we going to have an Oops All Cecil seed?
I mean, it is possible, but honestly, it would be kind of foolish. She's not a very strong healer, certainly compared to other options that we know exist in the pool.
And Dingley, still rocking just that solo Cecil, is going to go up Mount Ordeals just to check this character, you'd imagine. And that's an Edward, and he'll stay there.
Meanwhile, penguin8r did take Rydia and even went to get the free summon on the west side of Hobbs. This is where, in the vanilla game, Rydia would learn Fire 1, and there's a whole cutscene, and it's very dramatic. But we don't really care about Fire 1, we care about big summon Boomy. And in this case, we got Indra, which, hey, that's electric. That's a boom, I guess.
That's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie.
It could boogie, indeed. And yes, we have yet another Cecil.
So I think since Dingley named his characters after DC Comics characters, I think we're going to have as many Cecils here as there are Batman movies.
So I don't know how many Batman movies there actually are, and I don't know how many of them are good. So I don't know what direction to take this joke.
Well, it depends. Do you think Batman and Robin is good?
I was entertained watching it. I know that's not what the question you asked. I was entertained watching it.
Meanwhile, Dingley goes into the Tower of Wishes, picks up another twin, so Palom and Porum are on his team, and he gets to use twin magic, which is useful in cleaning up some of these early game bosses. And as chat pointing out, Hupfin, penguin8r ended up resetting out of that, taking that Rydia.
Yes. Yes, deciding the intro was not worth it. There's a reasonable heads up kind of play. There's a lot early on. A lot of that power that you get from Rydia does come from your selection of summons. She can be a viable white mage with Sylph or Asura, and a pretty strong attacker. Again, if you get that Bahamut or Leviathan, any of those strong offensive summons. But Indra, it's good but not great.
Dingley picking up a second Cat Claw in the Antlion Cave. No Yonks to speak of so far.
Yeah, nor any edges. They can also use those, but no, that's Yong equipment through and through. And that's a sparkle in the Antlion Cave that just turns out to be Pale Dim.
Meanwhile, I believe penguin8r picked up a second twin of his own, but I believe he has 2 Palams. So 2 black mages flanking his Cecil.
Yeah, I didn't actually see to be sure, but I'm pretty sure you are correct there. It might be one of each. They're twins. They're hard to tell apart.
The item from Antlion, just a Protect Ring. Which is a very nice piece of equipment. One of the mages will be happy to wear that, give them a little extra cushion, but not a key item. No key items yet. And speaking of key items, like our tracker Bad Karma and our restreamer Demarine 2, Bad Karma, we promise you'll have something to do soon.
Well, we certainly hope you'll have something to do soon. And it looks like Stone Dingley is going to try to fulfill that promise over in Fabul.
Yeah, it's a fairly common early game check, especially with a party that's can take on early checks but isn't world beating. You get a free heal before and after. No reason to put it off any longer.
Yeah, personally, I think the way Pale Dim has gone for Stone Dingley and seems to be going for penguin8r, it's not a very damaging fight, so you're coming out of it in pretty good spirits and pretty good health and MP and all of that. So you might be willing to push for ordeals and not kind of waste the healing that you're getting off of this Fabul fight.
Each of these runners does have the vanilla ordeals party, except for Tella. Mylon and friends invading Fabul Castle. Those lit ones really hurting that Dark Knight, but with the twin magic, should be able to take him down.
Yeah, and honestly, you're not too worried about things hurting your Dark Knight. Any sort of levels that he gets at this point are just going to go away the moment you do ordeals anyway. And there's not much good gear for Dark Knight Cecil. There's like 1 or 2 sword upgrades, and that's it.
Yeah, before he becomes a paladin, Dark Knight Cecil is by some margin the worst character in the game.
But still more than enough to get through that Mylon and friends and successfully defend Fabul. We'll see what Dingley is going to get from it and what penguin8r is likely to get from it just a moment after him.
Gets the hook, which is very interesting. Opens up another character check and some looting opportunities. You have to imagine that Dingley and penguin8r would rather check out some of the other overworld checks, certainly ordeals, before committing to that hook route.
Yeah, that hook route with this party is going to be rough. You need to do at least a little bit more work. Um, we've already seen one of the free bosses, that King Queen Eblin, over in the waterfall, so slightly higher chance, just by the numbers, of the fights there being, actually difficult, and the sort of thing this party couldn't do.
And both these runners have 2 character spots open. Who do you think they're looking for in their ideal world hanging out at that hook route?
It depends on the kind of strategy that they're thinking of taking to Zeromus. If you're looking to do reflect strats, then you probably at this point want another white mage, since you have that Rydia in the back pocket at worst. If your train of thought is I want to do physical damage and just kind of have Palom, play support a little bit, then you're looking for that physical attacker. Maybe an Edge, maybe a Kane. Kind of depends on what equipment they find and who they feel best with. And then there's Tella. There's always Tella. He's just so versatile.
Yes, and he, more than anybody else, he makes getting to Zeromus levels much easier than being without him. He unlocks that D Machine grind, which is, without Sirens, easily the most efficient way to grind, given these flags.
Yeah, otherwise you're stuck doing the Mac Giant grind, rather, which is effective, but is a little more constrained in terms of doing it quickly. You need to have characters around who can use good anti-giant and anti-machine equipment, which a lot of your physical damage dealers are, Sid especially, but not all of them.
Or you could go even deeper into the grind options. You could do a door grind. You could do a clapper grind. They get more dire from there.
Yeah, having that knowledge of what grinds are available and are viable, it's very nice to have. You really hope you don't have to apply that knowledge.
So, assuming that the hook route is going to be required for these runners, Castle Evelyn might be a play here. Not only can you get a couple levels for that unforgiving hook route, but Castle Evelyn also has the chance to give you some high-level loot, including maybe a sword for Cecil, which would really unlock his potential. Just something to keep in mind for later.
Absolutely. It being an area with trap chests, the loot that isn't in a trap chest is going to be slightly better in terms of weighting, just because of the risk factor. And then any trap chests that you fight and complete successfully will drop high tier loot in general, because you had to work for it. And that does include some of the better swords that Cecil could wield.
After taking care of Bahamut on the front of the bridge on Mount Ordeals, Dingley running into the dolls on the back attack spot. This is an annoying spot for dolls.
Yeah, and this is a scary situation. That flare was not doing a ton of damage, and clearly not enough to prevent this Calbrenna.
And now it's a big doll, and especially from the back spot, Calbrenna will hit hard.
More than hitting hard, it has that entire glance attack that, depending on who it hits, can be very annoying or very dangerous. Right now, it's a little more on the annoying side. But if that happens to nab one of your physical damage dealers, that could be scary.
Calbrenna manages to give itself a couple of free heals using that glance. Meanwhile, penguin8r is heading down into Cave Evelyn, going to check out that character. Maybe do some looting on the way back.
Yeah, did peek a couple of chests, but is not pushing his luck right now. There is a trap chest in this area, so you are running that risk.
And we know there's a Rydia available in that Cave Eblin shop. There was a self-summon for sale, and that is a demist on the hook route.
That is a Rosa on the hook route. That is two very good bits of information.
Dingley
That
takes down that doll and throws the dolls like a petulant child. You need to be nicer to your toys, Dingley.
listen, Cecil was knocked out. Cecil was sleeping. The children were running rampant. These things happen.
These children need discipline.
Well, these children are getting a darkness crystal instead.
And that's huge.
Yeah, that absolutely that opens up a lot of those grind options that we were talking about. That opens up the entire moon. Kind of important. Does technically open up Objective 4 right now after we get through this vanilla cutscene. But certainly the Ribbon Room is not something that we're going to be going and approaching quite yet. We are far too underleveled to deal with that unless it is the freest of fights, and you're not taking that risk just yet.
No, meanwhile, Penguin8r said no thanks for now to that Rosa.
Yeah, I also said no thanks for now to the trap chest that was in there, but found a few items of interest along the way, so did reset to grab those before exiting out.
And we were talking earlier about the few weapons that Dark Knight Cecil could use. The Black Sword is useful, and Penguin8r found one of those in a chest in Cave Eblin and slaps it on Cecil to use for these two boss fights coming up.
Or not, deciding not to go to ordeals just yet.
Penguin8r does the okie doke and heading to Basidia, maybe filling out his party here.
Yeah, looking like fill out the party a bit. May have enough information and enough locations checked to be like, I'm good. I know what my final party is going to look like. Let's fill it in and go. But no, leaving one last slot open, taking that Rydia to stick Sylph on. So Rydia gets to play healer for a little while.
Did he actually pick up that Sylph? They are a little bit expensive, but if you ask me, well worth it.
I don't actually know, but I do know that they were spotted. And he has found a number of whistles, which sell for a decent amount of money, so he might be able to afford it.
Yeah, whistles are the biggest scam going. They're not very useful in free enterprise, and they sell for a ton. So sell them while the selling's good. Dingley summons his big whale and is heading up probably to do a shop check and a character check. Maybe to find out who's in that ribbon room, but that might be too long of a walk for right now.
Yeah, that's a pretty sizable time investment. And like I said, you are very unlikely to be able to handle whatever is in there right now.
Yeah, not only is the ribbon room a very high level boss, you don't really have many J items that would make even the so-called free fights more manageable. I don't remember seeing an hourglass or anything like that. Maybe some mute bells if Baron guards, but that's a 1 in a million shot, so might not be worth it. And Dingley sees a Sid up on the moon and resets back to the Earth.
Yep, just quickly apologizes for interfering with the lunar engineer. He's got work to do up there, and we'll let him do it for a while.
Isn't a lunar engineer an astronaut?
I mean, yes, but also yes.
Dingley comes back down to the blue planet and heads to Baron Inn. Going to first take care of his Cecil before taking care of the Leviathan in the first 5.
Yeah, definitely planning long term for that Cecil to be the anchor. And this is the one half of the Baronin setup that actually will give XP, assuming you survive it, which Leviathan is being rather rude at the moment. So
Yeah,
you definitely you want Cecil down for this one. The second half, take it or leave it.
Second half doesn't give experience anyway. It's a lunar sparkle and it's a D-lunar.
Well, that is a bit of a yikes.
This spot hits hard. If you can survive long enough, you can get a couple Star Veils off and do Lunar Frog strats, but these characters just aren't equipped to take the punches that the D-Lunars are giving out there.
No, we are going to have to come back to that later. So it looks like Dingley is grabbing the hovercraft, going to head over to Eblin, discover that D-Mist and that Rosa, and we'll see what he decides to take and take on. Penguin8r, meanwhile, trying to get through the dolls without dealing with Calbrenna. So being a lot more particular and careful about this battle setup.
Which it's strange to see a party with 3 kids being more careful with their toys than a party with 2 kids. This Cecil stays up and is able to control him.
Yeah, that Cecil has figured out parenting, I guess.
You know, good for him.
Yeah, I guess the key to stronger parenting is a Deathbringer sword. So I wouldn't quote me on that.
No, I think you should put that in a book. That'd be a bestseller. Penguin8r gets his dark interest.
We did find an Odin for Rydia that was on Mount Ordeals. It was one of the few chests that were available.
Odin has its uses. Might be more useful for selling though, at this point.
Yeah, it's a bit of a gamble just by its design.
And Penguin8r doesn't have time to listen to speeches. Takes down that Dark Knight with some twin magic. I think that kind of defeats the point of what the Dark Knight was supposed to teach us in the original game, but whatever works.
Listen, this is a race. We are trying to go fast. He needs to make his point more concisely. You know, we need an elevator pitch for your idea.
Yes, it's... Next time, come at us with a positive statement, not a negative statement. Justice is not the only right in this world. Okay, well, why don't you tell us what is a right in this world?
In 7 words or less. The timer starts now. Dingley's timer resets, finding the stale man, and realizing he's not ready to fight that. So that trap chest in the Eblin Cave gonna remain closed for now.
Yeah, the Staleman is never really a fight you want to see. Um, it it doesn't get much experience. It's hard, so the item might sometimes be worth it. Usually, you're just better off avoiding it at all costs.
Yeah, it's one of those that if you have the hourglasses to spare, you might as well pop one. Because once they're stopped, it's a pretty breezy fight. But that's consuming resources and consuming time, and our runners don't quite need to do that.
Yeah, and in these table flags, hourglasses are tough to come by. It seemed like they were available in gated shops in the group flags, but here at the table, nah.
Yep, that's S Pro for you.
Dingley heading over to Troya, a couple more item shops, some more weapon shop, looking for some mute arrows, which are always useful. Selling that Odin. Mute arrows are good against mage type enemies, Maggot Sisters, Asura. Uh, it's always good to have some on hand to break in case of emergency.
Yep, and those ethers will absolutely come in handy for any kind of grind that you're going to do. You're going to want that extra MP.
Silk
some,
Web Cure
yeah.
2s and Thor Rages in the other item shop.
It's a good town for shopping.
Oh.
I see Stone Dingley measuring out the steps already. And quite a few steps before Dingley can even find an encounter. Not sure if he actually has encounters on, but we'll need to do that before setting all this up.
And so it's interesting that he's doing these steps already before filling out his party.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's like hoping to kind of cash this more or less, which would be a pretty bold approach, or if he's just planning to try and grind this smaller party and then slingshot his last couple entries.
Penguin8r finds the D-Lunars. Gonna try and take him down.
Yeah, slightly better position to do so than Dingley was on his visit. That Fire 2 is powerful, but not powerful enough to one-shot the whole arrangement.
Going to make sure Cecil covers his mages.
Yeah, I feel like Penguin8r is probably leaving that last slot open for an Anchor Cecil at this point, because he's just gladly letting this one gain levels and gain power and gain agility.
Yeah, he knows he has his pick of Cecil sprites to choose from.
Ooh, and we find the adamant ore in Baron Inn.
That is one half of the first objective. And that's very interesting.
Yeah, this. I mean, we already knew that Baron was going to be relatively stacked just by virtue of 2 objectives requiring the Baron key. But this could end up being an entirely Baron-centric objective set. That Legend Sword could very well be in Baron Castle as well.
It looks like Baron, not Baron for our runners tonight.
You know, I respect that one.
Where are all these tomatoes coming from? Meanwhile, after doing his steps, Stone Dingley heading up to the moon. Is a reaction grind on the table here?
That looks like the setup. So we were talking about esoteric grinds. There is a way with, I believe it's the grenades here. If you attack them with a lit 1 single target spell, they actually have a counter script called reaction that just blows them up. They just explode. And they explode the entire enemy party. So it's a one-shot to take out a bunch of high-level targets. But of course, those balloons, they hit hard.
And that was a back attack, which meant that Dingley had real problems getting set up to try and tank any hits that they were going to dish out. And so he resets, then he's got to try it again. Meanwhile, penguin8r, diving back down the hook route, has already found his character here. It looks like he's going to loot, maybe get Mad Ogre chest on the way down, and see what's waiting for him before that pitfall.
Yeah, we do know that D-Mist is at Rubicante, so there is even more value here to be looking at. But who is going to be in the King Queen Evelyn spot? It could be a very rude fight. Or it could end up being completely free. At this point, we have done enough of the overworld that we know it's not going to be one of those fights that completely blocks progress. We already know, for example, it's not going to be Golbez. We know where Golbez is. But there are other very rude options that are off the table. But there's still rude options that are on the table. And this is the table flags, so.
Well, the interesting thing is, if it is a Golbez, or a Valvalis, or a Wyvern, then... oh, no, it can't be any of those anyway, because we know where that D-Mist is. So, yeah, we know it can't be specifically one of those 3 bosses. And we know Evil Wall's up on top of Hobbs, but there could still be Kainatsu. There could still be some other really challenging bosses. Asura would be fun there.
Yeah, it looks like penguin8r is going to take this opportunity to get a little more XP via the Staleman. Trying to get a life glitch off, it looked like. But not quite strong enough to one-shot.
Dingley, meanwhile, gets another back attack, trying to get that reaction fight. Again, it wipes him out, and Dingley decides this isn't going to work out right now. Go to Castle Evelyn instead.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's a very clever approach, but you could be too clever by half, and I feel like that's what Dingley got hit with.
Yeah, the problem with doing the step manipulation to set up that reaction grind is you don't know what the formation is going to be when you do those steps, and Dingley just got unlucky with some back attacks, or it might not even be unlucky. He's just at such low levels that back attacks happen more often.
Meanwhile, penguin8r got through that trap chest, picks out Leviathan, so that is Rydia's best offensive summon short of Bahamut. But Dingley over in Evelyn Castle found Asura, which is her best healing summon most of the time. So we actually are finding the pieces to make Rydia a really valuable member of the party. You have to make sure you go to the right places to do so.
penguin8r wastes no time in teaching Rydia that Leviathan, and you have to expect that Leviathan's going to be cutting through whatever fights penguin8r sees down here. Chat pointing out that if you have 2 Rydias, you can use one as a healer. Yes, Asura works to heal you, and 66% of the time it works every time.
And hey, sometimes you can find yourself in that dire situation that you want that 33% roll. You want that life just to bring back the rest of the party.
Whenever I need that, it works 0% of the time.
Oh, I mean, yeah. The odds are never in your favor, but it's an option.
penguin8r slaps that curse ring on his Cecil, going to slow him down for this upcoming King Queen Evelyn spot fight.
And it looks like we have a blue robe with just one. It's probably Water Hag. It's Water Hag.
2 blue robes show up there if it's the All Gauntlet. I know this from hard fought experience.
So yes, this is a relief of a fight, honestly. You just have to get your 3 swings in and you're good to go. Sure, Water Hag hits hard, but...
as long as you can keep one character up, it's fine. The next fight has a free heal anyway. Threemus at the Rubicon spot is more annoying than anything.
Yeah, Rubicon is a little faster than you might expect or might internalize, and a lot of times that doesn't really factor in, but Threemus being the ATB tutorial boss, this makes it a little more annoying to deal with high-speed locations.
You can see how hard the Threemus hits. That Cecil taking 200, and that Cecil has some good armor on. I think a crystal shield. That curse ring, so.
And the fact that it was able to get all 3 swings in the time that Rydia did a single Leviathan summon. Now, granted, Leviathan is not exactly the fastest, but that's still a lot of swings in a modest amount of time.
A Silk Web might be a good investment for this fight.
Yes, which I believe Stone Dingley did find and did pick up, so he'll have a little easier of a time relative to penguin8r, who can cast slow once the dragon reforms.
I believe that was a life staff that Dingley picked up from that trap chest.
Yep. So hey, good thing to give to your white mage if you're really dedicated to them being your white mage.
Yep, it certainly increases their white magic ability. And I'm still valuing that Porim as a new death machine, though. Gonna give her the samurai bow.
we go. Penguin8r gets that slow to stick just as Porum gets knocked to the floor. But that should make the rest of this fight a little more manageable.
And Penguin8r turning to Sylph at this point, and why is he turning to Sylph at this point, you think, Hupman?
Well, I'm struggling to answer that because I'm struggling to remember if we left the Sylph glitch on.
Sylph glitch is on.
Well, there's a strong argument for it then. Rydia, not the biggest MP pool, and summons cost a fair amount, but Sylph is glitched a little bit. You do need... Oh, no, it's...
Oh, I guess it's not. Sorry.
Wait. Okay.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Dingley, our restreamer, pointing it out.
So, normally, in these flags, Sylph, as long as you have the MP to cast it, Sylph doesn't actually take any MP away from Rydia. So it's essentially free to cast as long as you have 25 MP. As Demarine points out, if you try to cast Sylph and it fails, it doesn't resolve, then that MP gets used. So the only way it's not free is if you don't actually cast it.
Yeah, so this is an unfortunate little turn of events for Penguin8r, because having that Sylph around would have been very nice for managing health and getting some chip damage in. Palom is probably going to be his main damage source with that virus, especially with how many bluffs he's been rolling.
Mm-hmm. That is the nice thing about Threemus, is Palom gets a chance every time the dragon turns into Mist. Since he has nothing better to do, he can bluff and increase his magic power. And our tracker, Bad Karma, pointing out, I believe that was a Zeus gauntlet picked up in the trap chest, which his Cecil will find very nice indeed.
Yeah, Cecil or a grown-up Rydia even can use it, or a number of physical attackers, depending on if he decides to take more of them.
Yeah, if push comes to shove and he wants that Sid to round out the party to give a little physical oomph, that's certainly a possibility that Sid would like that Zeus gauntlet, but that wouldn't be likely at this point.
Yeah, I am definitely just generally curious what approach Dingley is going to take going into Threemus, and going into the rest of the seed, really. Like how he's going to round out his party. I feel like Penguin8r is in that strong position for the double Cecil. So I almost expect that at this point, but Stone Dingley got a number of options on the table. No very good options right now, as that is a charmed Cecil in the middle of his party. That Lamia is causing some trouble.
And the Lamia bails him out, attacks that Cecil for 1 damage. I hope that was worth it, Lamia. But yeah, Dingley could go full flex strats here, add another Rydia to the party, or he could even be thinking of checking other character spots, Dwarf Castle, Baron Castle if he ever gets that Baron key. So there are options on the table for Dingley.
There is also Quake on the table. The apple coming out of that chest, not as big a deal, but getting Palom to no Quake. You'll
Yes,
love to see it.
there the real treasure was the spells we learned along the way. Dingley heading back to Mysidia. It looks like he's made a decision on what to do with his party.
And it looks like that decision does involve Iridia. And a Rosa. Dingley has committed to his 5.
So committing to a reflect strategy, going to enjoy that Leviathan if he picks that up.
And going back, committing to a grind again. Does not want to go too deep from the looks of it. Yeah, this setup does seem a little friendlier to a Mac Giant approach. Still a little sketchy, perhaps, just because you don't have much in the way of Giant or Machine specific stuff, but those Zeus Gauntlets definitely will help out. And yeah, the Cecil does have an axe at the very least.
That'll certainly help. Meanwhile, penguin8r still slogging through the steam mist. It's been something like 7 minutes on this fight.
Yeah, it's been a bit. Like I said, this is the classic ATB tutorial boss, and so it has those periods of you can't do anything, just to make sure you're aware of that. Hey, that's the thing. But then we just have to sit through it.
Do you get nervous when a boss takes a long time like this and you feel like you've been stuck in the same place for a while, or do you figure your opponent is probably dealing with the same thing?
Well, for one, I'm constantly nervous. For two, I think I would be concerned here, just because the more grinding you do before you get in, the faster this becomes, and after a while, you have to figure, like, am I on a decent spot on that curve? penguin8r does get through it, but again, his Palom was pretty close to Quake. How much faster would Quake have made that fight? Or at least being at the levels where you have Quake?
And he could be thinking that his opponent did take those fights to get to that level and maybe got through a little quicker. That could be going through his mind, but right now what's going through his mind is, pitfall!
And a punch mage at the top of tower. So that's information. But this does get penguin8r into the underground, about 50 minutes into our seed. Classic hook route. But does also open up that key item in Mist once he goes back to the surface.
True, so you have to imagine that penguin8r is going to do a tour of the freebies, maybe punch made at the top of tower. Interesting.
Lost you there a little bit, Sheep Launcher, but yes, we'll be diving into the Fey March freebie first, the Rat Tail chest. Probably take a look at the Fey March bosses and probably not touch them for now, maybe ever, as they tend to be pretty obnoxious, but if there's a freebie there too, then hey.
Yeah, it's all good information to have.
And of course, there is Yang in the bed. There's more more Zeus gauntlets here, kind of free. But I would imagine you would want to hold off a little bit on visiting Yang, just in case you manage to stumble into the pan. You always want to minimize that route whenever possible.
Yeah, and going back to the information we know, that punch mage at the top of tower, it's an interesting fight because it's kind of free with this Cecil. Since it's a scripted fight, if you survive 2 kicks from Yang and whack him with a Paladin Cecil, he says ouch and he falls over. That spot has a ton of HP, but it doesn't have a ton of attack power, so it's certainly doable, maybe even at low levels.
Yeah, we did find Rubicante at Asura. So that's a big nope.
And did I see a Mom Bomb at the King spot?
I think we did. I think that's another nope.
Mom and Ruby sitting in a tree.
Do they have trees in Feymarch? I don't see foliage.
The job
I see a
dwarf.
retail store manager.
Okay, so, and we're gonna go visit the retail store clerk here.
Mm-hmm.
So the job dwarf is this guy's boss.
Makes
That's
sense. It makes sense. He's over in the office nearby, but not really at the work site.
Is that a storage room that?
Quite possibly. And they just let penguin8r. That's a terrible manager. Just really not concerned with locational security.
If that's a chain of stores, loss prevention is going to be paying him a visit. Penguin8r goes back and is going to check Rydia's mom right away.
Just gets a life staff out of it. So Demas did not provide progression or any sort of key item.
Gosh, Mom, you don't even know me. Like, have you been listening to anything I said I wanted? Like, ever?
I just want to go to Baron.
All my friends are doing it. Come on. Their moms let them. Dingley doing his Mac Giant grind. Has his 2 least beefy characters on the ground for now and has everybody else blinked up. So it looks like he has this. Has it where he wants to be for now.
Yeah, it didn't have quite enough blink going on as that Porum does get knocked out. But you don't really need your party alive during the grind. It's when you're about to clean it up and get out of there. You want to make sure the folks you want alive, they stay alive, and everyone else taking a nap.
I mean, that's the way you learn, right? You're asleep during the semester and you wake up at the end.
I mean, hey, I have a college degree. I'm not going to argue.
Ogo Pogo in the doll spot at Dwarf Castle. This will be fun.
That I might argue about. That I might write a dissertation.
And the dissertation just says, nope. I'll be honest, I don't know if your advisor's going to approve that, Hupman.
Well, you know, it's been enough years that I don't have enough terms to continue the joke. But we do have penguin8r trying to do that self-healing, and nope, that is a summon. Ogo Pogo does not like summons. So going to have to take some other approaches to get through this fight. Or might have to skip it and come back later on.
Yeah, there's not much that Ogopogo does like, but Ogopogo especially doesn't like summons. Nobody on the moon likes summons.
So yeah, this is especially rude given the kind of party composition that both of our runners are looking at. Being so mage heavy and then hitting an Ogopogo.
Yes, and it's rude because this Ogopogo leads into another fight right after it, where there is another character that comes, but do you sacrifice that character spot for a short-term gain? It'll depend what the party looks like and how committed penguin8r is to this.
Yes, learning that Ogopogo actually is fine with you casting twin magic. So that is going to have to be his strategy here. That is actually giving good amounts of damage in the process and not setting off any of the counters. Or you can just quake through it. You can always quake through it.
That's good life advice.
When things are giving you hassle, when things aren't going your way, just shake the earth. I'm definitely full of advice this evening.
Yes. I think Taylor Swift said it. Haters gonna hate, and Quake it's gonna quake. That's an Octoman in the Golbez spot. Edge showing up. penguin8r thinking about it.
Yeah, but not gonna take him. At least not yet.
This spot has only 3,000 health, so penguin8r banking on being able to take care of it with this party, and this Quake should finish Octoman off.
Easily.
Demarine pointing out that Edge is really awkward. Yeah, that's just when he's talking to Rydia.
Now, Sheep Launcher, he can be awkward to Rosa too.
So which one of those tentacles do you think was that floating hand?
You know, that's not on the list of things I wanted to think about tonight. I do want to think about what the music is at Twin Harp, though.
That is a fun, spicy item.
Yeah, again, that Cave Magnus, it's a nice location. It's all well and good. Very strong magic defense, and when you have an entirely mage-centric party, kind of sucks.
Picks up a couple of illusions and is not done looting yet. Going to pick up some things here in the back of Dwarf Castle. See if there's a good weapon. Do you think he's looking for a sword? It's for a Cecil or something?
Could well be. Could also just be looking for that lucky kind of high quality item that just happens to show up. These are T Pro and S Pro, so you're not likely to find great stuff, but it's not like it's a shuffle or anything that's going to prevent some of that higher tier loot from appearing. It's just going to really reduce the odds.
penguin8r making that dive into the Sylph Cave. Going to whack Yang, then probably head back above ground. See what Sheila has, and then has a decision to make.
Yeah, well, can't whack Yang just yet. No pans do so. But can get that Sheila 1 item. And I feel like that's enough nudge. Yeah, he's going to go overworld. That's enough to to get you to come up here and do a couple of checks. If you're already coming up here, you might as well commit to staying on the surface for a moment and doing that twin harp.
Certainly, music will tame the savage beast. We'll see if Penguin8r's enough of a beast to be seduced by that music.
That is the package for Penguin8r off of the Sheila 1, so not really anything of value unless you're really hunting for a specific character to round out the party.
You have to imagine that the only character Penguin8r would be willing to sit through a cutscene for is Tella.
Yeah, that's at this point your only pick in that category.
And that might be worth a check, honestly.
Meanwhile, Stone Dingley still grinding through those Mac Giants. No idea how many it's been at this point, and this is looking like, yeah, this is solid one grind all the way to Z levels, and that will make the fights on the hook route pretty straightforward. They were not that terrible to begin with, just a slog for a D-Mist.
No, but they'll be trivial for Dingley. He doesn't know who's at that King-Queen spot, but he has bigger fish to fry. He wants this grind to be the be-all and end-all, where he could just blaze through everything left in his path, and as soon as he gets that Baron Key, he can go.
Yeah, and so I guess... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, meanwhile, Penguin8r making the trek through the woods, going up to that Cave Magnus.
Yes, Penguin8r is just following that trail of key items that he's been obtaining. Got that twin harp. That's the only new key item. It's the only new progression. So he's just follow one after the other and see where things take you. And this does lead to a little bit of a contrast. We have Stone Dingley trying to be ready for anything and everything that the seed could throw at you. Penguin8r is like, I want to see what the seed is going to throw before I plan too far ahead. Because you may end up having to do so much that you don't need to do this massive grind that Dingley is doing. You may be able to cut that time down a measurable amount.
Yes, although Penguin8r is nowhere near 10 key items.
Oh, certainly.
But has the Dark Elf fight, and that means Edward is about to come in and save the day, and more importantly, stop me from talking for a while.
Let's see what lovely tunes we got this evening. Yes, it is time to face the elements to the tune of Locke's theme from FF6.
A gorgeous tune from one of the best soundtracks in the series. Elements go down, and meanwhile, Dingley has finished up his grind. I believe he got up to Nuke and White on all of his mages. Just a Gungnir Spear from Cave Magnus.
Yeah, that hurts a little bit, honestly.
It's a spear for Kane, which we don't have, and not even. It's his third best spear.
I think so. I think that's the one that he's carrying when he rejoins your party for the final time.
Yeah, I'd rather have a white spear or a dragoon spear, or a defense sword. So, not if we had him, he might be insulted.
But yeah, this leaves very few options for Penguin8r. He has not gone to. Oh well, there's.
Oh,
Okay, we have your spear. We have come to deliver it. Yeah, we have the top of tower remaining, and we have the Fey March. But there's really Dingley's approach right now, which is just he's going up to the moon before even bothering to go underground. This is starting to look like the better option.
it really is. It depends on what the keyless tower does, and I'm always a fan of keyless tower because I just conveniently forget about the times when it doesn't pay out. But I like Dingley's play here. He's done his grind. He can round it out with a couple of moon bosses. I don't know if he thinks that Penguin8r isn't up here, but he certainly has to feel like he's getting an advantage somehow.
Yeah, I feel like Dingley maybe playing a little meta here. Seeing that it's a hook route, saw that Miss Dragon was the Rubicante slot. That's just a tedious fight. You're probably going to want to grind a little bit to get there. So hey, let's flip the script. Let's grind all the way up and just forget the hook route. Hook routes are mean. And in this case, if the moon ends up not being haunted, that's actually a strong advantage.
And it looks like Dingley's going to head to the bottom of the lunar subterranean first, rather than go to Cave Bahamut or starting top down. Going to go for that objective, go for the 2 key items, going to tackle the ribbon room first.
Yep. Penguin8r, meanwhile, showing off the free fight against Yang Karate Punch Mage. Gets a Sand Ruby. That's a key item, but that's not progression. Penguin8r is really short on options that don't require a strong grind for him as well.
Yes, he's got the Feymarch bosses on the blue planet. He's got the moon. And he might be interested in seeing what's at that Sand Ruby. Maybe it's an old man sleeping in the bed. Although it isn't raining in Kaipo. So I doubt it.
I applaud when you go 2 or 3 layers deep with these references and jokes. And it's beautiful, and I don't know what you're saying. Yeah, if you're Penguin8r, you have to feel a bit unsettled almost. You've basically played the seed correctly, I want to say. Certainly in a traditional and typical way, and it's just none of it has paid out.
Yeah, you just have to. He hasn't done anything wrong, really. The Demus took a little bit of time, but he played it well, and he doesn't have a whole lot to show for it. No objectives yet. 72 minutes into the seed.
but he does find yet another Cecil. I don't remember if that's number 4 or number 5, but that's a lot of Cecil.
And this one he says yes to. Penguin8r has his second Cecil and has his final party.
Yeah, that is the party composition that we were kind of expecting. Because again, we have vanilla agility, and both of our runners started with that Cecil. You're forced to have him. So you're forced to deal with that, and this is one way to get some control when you're stuck in that situation.
Dingley found Mylon Z in the ribbon room. Not a bad fight to find here at all. Weak to fire, weak to holy.
Yeah, as we like to say, one of the many bosses that's just weak to damage. Finding 2 of Edge's best weapons, the Murasame and the Spoon. But more importantly, gets our first objective on the board, an hour and 13 into this race.
I hope our tracker did not forget what to do with those buttons. Speaking of which, I'd like to thank our behind-the-scenes crew again, Bad Karma Tracking, Demarine2 with the restream, making sure you got that music and get all the pretty pictures, and Hupfin, the co-commentator. Give all of them a follow. They certainly deserve it.
Yes, we have Penguin8r setting up for his grind. I have looked at the charts. We have ones for the Mac Giant, for the D Machine. Not positive which one he's setting up, but I suspect this is Mac Giant. Certainly with this crew, you don't have the week available to you, so going for D Machine is a bit gutsy. And that Dark Elf does its quick change. Dingley's just going to keep trying to wail away with the damage.
So is the Dark Elf a magician? Is that what we've decided?
I can go with that.
I mean, who else do you know that can quick change?
I mean, I've known some cashiers who are very quick with the change.
Dingley gets through and gets a tower key. And there's something to chase, potentially. You'd have to think Dingley would want to stay up here on the moon for a little while longer, though.
Yeah, again, he hasn't even gone underground. He's up here doing the ribbon room and all this stuff. Never been underground. And probably is expecting the hook route to be so mean that he's like, I want to see a magma key before I do anything like that.
Penguin8r looks like he's gotten himself set up, going to that whale. Gonna summon the giant to summon more giants.
Yep, it's the recursive giant.
I heard you like giants, so I put giants in your giant.
But now here's the thing. If you have a giant inside a giant, are they both still considered giant? Or is it like tiers of giant?
Well, it's in the name, isn't it?
It's sure, but like just because you call something a giant doesn't mean it's a giant. Anyway, we had guards at Ogopogo, and guards do not have the boss bit, so guards can be destroyed by a simple stone cast. Just getting a crystal ring though, so your reward is about equivalent to the effort put in. And here come the Mac Giants for Penguin8r.
Are they Mac Giants because they're Scottish?
I'm going to guess no. They might be. But I'm going to say no.
You would hope they'd be wearing kilts if they were.
They're just giant Macs.
Hupfin, did you see what Penguin8r's top Cecil is? What kind of weapon he has?
Well, it's an axe. I didn't see which one specifically.
Maybe he found an ogre axe somewhere.
I think we did see those at some point, so it is possible that's what he's wielding.
Doesn't look like a rune axe.
Yeah.
Our
So-
tracker is saying a poison axe.
Well, between the poison axe and the virus, it is doing enough damage to take these Mac Giants down, just not quite as efficiently as you would hope.
Dingley taking on this Asura, going to reflect spells onto her, power overwhelm.
Yeah, when you got an all mage party, you're really looking at these reflect strats for both doing the damage and for mitigating Asura's script. That wall on Asura means those cures, those lives, those are just going to bounce right off onto the party. You don't have to worry about that whole deal.
Even though Cure 3 doesn't do a whole lot at this spot, Cure 4 is still a Cure 4.
Yep. And that's an Earth Crystal. Ooh. That only nets you one key item out of the whole event. And the characters that come from it are not relevant anymore.
It also opens up that treasury, which Dingley may make an exception to the general no looting rule, especially if there's a sword down there.
Yeah, it would certainly come in handy. And hey, worst case, it's stuff to sell, I guess. But there's still a little more of the moon to do.
Yes, that vanilla pale dim spot, and also the Cave Bahamut. And Dingley is committed.
I mean, if you're doing a run where you're heading to the moon before you head underground, you gotta commit.
Certainly, that's a no-brainer. Magus Sisters at Pale Dim.
Yeah, honestly not a terrible location, certainly with Dingley's levels. I believe he's the one who went and bought some mute arrows early on, so this is where you redeem those.
Also has Quake on both his Palom and Rydia.
Yeah, the little benefits of, hey, you have stuff that takes advantage of your enemy being a mage, but also Quake. Quake takes advantage of everything except flying.
If Dingley wanted to cast Leviathan at all this seed, this would be a good time for it. It is fine.
And that's the legend sword, so just needs to go and grab that adamant ore that penguin8r has already found. And at least based on our tracking, Dingley has not. I think it was underground, but I don't remember exactly where it was. Oh no, adamant was in Baron Inn. So this whole time, Dingley has been fading a surface location, which is a little bold.
It is. Dingley tried Baron Inn to start and hasn't been back.
But this also means that not only is the Baron Key hard required with this objective set, but going to the moon is hard required, either for that Legend Sword or for doing the Ribbon Room.
Quite so. So the longer penguin8r puts it off, the further behind it seems like he'll be.
Yeah, actually at this rate, if these Dark Imps or the Earth Crystal pay out with the Baron Key, then it's the Underworld that's haunted.
And that's Dark Imps at Bahamut. Another free fight.
And another key item, that's a rat tail.
So Dingley has a ton of options from here. You have to start with that rat tail, don't you?
You know, I kind of think so. In part because it's a one-off.
And you only need one.
Yeah. And also you have to imagine if you're Dingley, you have to assume penguin8r has gone underground, has managed to make that work. And the fact that you haven't seen a dot done means that some amount of what you did is definitely valuable. So you gotta be thinking like, okay, maybe it's the rat tail that's like the real seam on all of this. And I pulled out the world's most clever play. So you commit to those.
Dingley picking up that hovercraft, gonna check that rat tail.
And that's penguin8r through with his grind. And that's a Luca key out of the rat tail.
Go fetch.
I mean, it's a fetch quest. It's a 1-for-1. That Baron key could be down at the bottom of the sealed cave for all we know.
So Dingley can go check out that Earth Crystal or can dive right underground. And it looks like Earth Crystal's the play.
Yep, committing to the moon and its myriad resources and ignoring the underworld as much as he can.
I mean, there are scary dwarves down there.
There are dragons in eggs.
It's literally called the Land of Monsters.
Yeah.
Why would you want to go there?
Well, I imagine if you want to meet a monster, that would be a good place to start.
Hmm. That is why I watched Sesame Street as a kid, I guess.
Absolutely.
I mean, they called him a monster, but he wasn't a monster.
I was going to continue the joke and say, we all know who the real monster was, but then I can't pick any of them that like wouldn't be like you need to have a good punchline for that one. And like Big Bird, is that really the best option? Gotta
It's,
overthink these jokes.
it's me. I'm the monster.
The real monster was the friends we made along the way. Was it Odin? It's Odin's here.
Again, with the levels, shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, you do want to try and get those lits out before Odin has a chance to do any of his sword play, but this is not a terribly frightening spot, so one quad 9 ought to do it.
Bzz.
Well, there's a Yang that we can't bring into the party, but nice to know he's participating.
And who are we going to untie and kick to the curb?
Another Rosa.
Vanilla.
Yeah. But we already had one. We already had another white mate. We were fine on the healing front this whole time, so that's not a that's not an oof, if you will. Honestly, neither is that Kanazo.
No, should be very doable in this spot.
Single nuke doable.
I mean, it doesn't get any easier than just nuke it. Now I've made myself hungry.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be easier if you didn't have to do anything, but a single cast of nuke basically is doing nothing.
Penguin8r, meanwhile, going to that ribbon room. Over an hour and a half, 0 objectives for Penguin8r, which I'm sure is not how he imagined this race would go. And that's a pan.
That is a pan indeed. So that also, that hook route massively required. There is no getting away from it.
Yes, and we got to go underground in some shape or another, but it looks like the moon is certainly the play.
Yep, and Dingley will have a much easier time dealing with D-Mist here relative to what Penguin8r had. Water Hag is still 3 hits and you're done, so no big deal. And we'll be able to do those Sheila checks a bit more compact, having the pan already in hand. So really it just comes down to where is that Baron key?
If you're Dingley, do you even do you go straight to Yang and whack him with the pan? I think I do.
I think so too, because again, you probably figure Penguin8r went underground. That's the sensible, normal play on this kind of seed. And so, if it's not on Sheila 2 or from the Sylphs, like, it's either going to be Fey March, which, a little bit difficult, or the Feymarch free chest. If it's the free chest, you probably expected to see a dot done by now. Like, you figure that has to be a very quick seed. So you got to stick with those moon-derived options. And that pan, that you trace that back to the moon.
My thoughts exactly. And then since you got the tower key up on the moon, if the pan doesn't turn out, then the tower is certainly a play. I was wondering if Dingley was going to nuke the water hag. Doesn't look like it.
Nah, I mean, there's so little reason to.
Well, the reason is if you think that your attack will miss, but...
That's valid.
But both Rydia and Porum doing some damage, and that's enough.
Meanwhile, penguin8r is dealing with this dark elf that Dingley has already taken care of a fair while ago. And dealing with it in much the same way, just a lot of nuke and a lot of quake.
Am I mistaken, or is this dark elf in the white spear room?
I never remember the vanilla equipment.
I
remember the ribbon. I remember the... yeah, the plague spot.
Okay, so penguin8r defeated that Mylon Z, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, and that's why the spoon is lit up, so...
And there is the tower key for penguin8r. And even with all that power, Stone Dingley still had to go through at least one cycle with the demist.
Now, penguin8r doesn't have to full clear the moon if he doesn't want to. He can chase things, but it looks like he's going to commit to the bit here.
Yeah, at least to the Ogopogo bit. This is one that you really don't want to, like, so you start your moon dive, you grab something, go back to Earth, and then it was here all along. It's just rude. If it's at the Pale Dim spot, that's annoying, but it's not this bad.
Dingley threw that demist, and even with all those levels, I guess Rosa doesn't know float, because he goes through the pitfall.
This just keeps forgetting to cast. You gotta cast float.
penguin8r finds the Baron guards and will life glitch them actually for some extra experience. There's a ton of experience to be gained here at the Ogopogo spot, so anytime you get the chance to get a little bit extra, it's worth taking.
Yeah, so I guess in that sense, penguin8r gets a little bit more of a reward out of that spot than what Dingley got. But that crystal ring is really all he has to show for it.
Dingley, meanwhile, checking that freebie, going immediately for 3 checks. 1 down here at the Sylphs, 2 up at Sheila.
Well, the Sylphs do not have what we need. They have some high tier gear, but not what we need.
Ooh, and Dingley having to deal with the true final boss, the inventory boss. You know, these characters are running around saving the world, but they don't have a home really in this game.
They
So
have cabins.
They have no place to put their stuff.
Put it in the cabins. Don't think about how they're lugging around the cabins. Just look. These are classic, vintage RPGs. They're not known for their logic.
Oh, I think the logic's perfect. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, the logic does mean that we always have a completable seed, so that's good to have. That's Sheila with the Magma Key, and that's Dingley with a reset. So yeah, at this point, it is looking like the Super Cannon or the Fey March is going to get you what you need.
And I know which one I'm checking first if I'm Dingley, and great minds thinking alike, or at least one great mind and one talking person. Awesome Morpheus pointing out Luca Key also in play, and that might be a more tempting check than going to the Fey March if Tower doesn't pan out.
The Super Cannon room is just going to be Dr. Luge and his robotic buddy. Always an easy fight. Well, almost always an easy fight, but doubly so in this spot. It's just going to take a while. He has all these things to say. He says words. We don't really listen to them.
No, he's just one of those people who loves the sound of his own voice. I don't know anybody like that.
I'm just going to leave that there. And there goes Dr. Luge.
Once again, Karate is on top of the tower. This might be the a fight where it's worth it to resurrect that Cecil.
I think Dingley's got 2 of them, so you only need 1 to make it work.
Dingley has only 1. Penguin8r has.
Oh, my bad. Right, because Dingley has Rosa, Rydia, and the 2 twins.
Although Dingley, perhaps thinking that Penguin8r has already done the tower, doing the half tower play.
Yeah. And Penguin8r coming straight to the tower. Ooh. So if this pays out with the Baron key,
we have a race.
This is tightened up substantially.
Penguin8r deciding that the tower key is the right thing to go fetch with. We'll see if it pays off for him.
It does.
Wow. And they're going to be a couple minutes apart from each other.
Incredibly different routes to get here. Very different key item collections. But they have both just took options and took directions that didn't pan out. But it was enough of them on both sides that they're coming in relatively close. I think both for timing and for levels, we give Dingley the advantage here. His grind was more substantial, so we're seeing bigger HP numbers and all of that. Penguin8r may be able to pull out some cheeky Zoroma strats, so we'll see how well he can catch up.
Yes, but it is very, very close, and one mistake by either runner could doom them. So, careful, meticulous play is going to be the word here.
Yeah, we do know that Golbez is at the Baigen spot. We don't know who's on the throne. But this first bit is going to be just this deal with the dialogue. Let him have his maniacal moment, and then nuke him.
Dingley with the heads-up play, remembering that the Golbez, even after an hour and 3/4, remembering that this Golbez is here, and casting Size on his party, which will allow him to kind of shrug off that paralyzing.
Yep, there's a whole hierarchy of status effects in this game, and Size and Piggy will both spare you from getting paralyzed. And when you have a mage-driven party, Size is going to be your better option because it doesn't influence your magic attack at all.
Yes, the tiniest mage can cast the biggest spell. It's really a nice lesson to learn.
On the other hand, the tiniest paladin is just the squishiest paladin. So if you have physical fighters, go with Pig.
Quad 9 white, and Golbez is left asking that question. When are we getting tacos? No, the question is why.
We'll get tacos after we finish the seed.
Penguin8r about 2 minutes behind Dingley at this point.
Hey, it looks like Baigen got that promotion he'd been pushing for this entire time, sitting on the throne. Still going to be a pretty easy fight, all told.
Yep, the dual Quake casters will just dual cast Quake. No muss, no fuss. There's a Porum we can't use. We tell her to go away so she doesn't get crushed by these walls.
Yep, as now Baron Castle casts Quake. So yes, whatever key item we get down here, unless it's the pass, it's pretty inconsequential, but the pass is the only item on our tracker that we haven't seen across the two runners, so it may be equipment, it may be a fast pass to Zoromas. It's not bad equipment.
No, our mage party will certainly appreciate that stat stick, but Dingley has bigger fish to fry. Dingley is on his way to Zoromas.
And you know, now that you say that, I kind of hope the Zoroma sprite is some manner of fish. Perhaps the wind fish from Zelda. Because of course we randomized the Zeromus sprite out of 450 plus options, and I'm sure at least one of those could be an aquatic butt that we will kick.
So what you're saying is here, fishy, fishy, fishy.
I'm saying that, but in like a less taunting voice because I don't have the very high levels and very geared out party that Dingley does.
Come on and let's kick your butt, fish. Come on and let's kick your butt, fish, fish.
Look, I'm just fishing for a sprite I haven't seen before. That's all.
You don't have to keep carping on it.
No, we don't.
I mean, I'm always looking for a sprite we haven't seen before, just for the halibut.
But penguin8r is now also through. Demarine, our researcher, pointing out about a minute and a half separating these two now. So it is actually getting closer.
Both of them are going to be in their Z fights at the same time. Dingley's going to be about a minute and a half ahead. It's so close.
Yes, I do think we are going to be looking at pretty similar, if not equivalent, strats across the two of them. I have to wonder if penguin8r's double Cecil approach is really going to influence the pace of his fight relative to Dingley, and see, like, maybe that will matter in terms of how quickly he can take the boss out. Will that be enough to make up for the levels difference? That's a big question.
It is, and will that first Cecil for penguin8r just be a chemist, or will he be used to get in some more damage, and will that be enough to overcome the level difference?
You know, at these parties, we would expect a lot of reflect strats, and that does provide a little advantage in avoiding the health refill script that Zeromus has. So having Cecil swing might actually be to your detriment, even if he is doing good amounts of damage, depending on his gear. So this is going to be interesting to see how the two strategies play out and which one will get them across the line first.
Dingley making that walk, and that means Dingley's on his way to Zeromus. Zeromus is always going to be here, down at the bottom of the lunar subterranean. He's too big, too powerful to move anywhere else, but this is a randomizer, so we got to randomize him. Zeromus gets a new sprite every time we go. There are over 450 of them, and the question we like to ask every time we enter this fight is, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Or whose fins, if it's a fish.
Oh, we're certainly hoping for that. Come on, Z, don't let us off the hook.
Or whose tentacles, if it's Ultros.
penguin8r did save, interestingly enough. I didn't see
he
it.
is. He is rushing for this. He is going as fast as he possibly can. That's not a fish.
That's not a fish, but that is Googly Eyes Zeromus.
So someone in the chat was asking, could we have a vanilla Zeromus? I'm like, is this close enough?
It looks kind of like one of those fish that has like the eyes on one side of its face, starting to fillet a little bit.
It's a certain level of unsettling, the standard level of Zeromus unsettling.
penguin8r entering the Z fight 1 minute and 13 seconds behind.
There's that first big bang for Dingley. Easily nerfed.
Oh, I'm hearing that the Z sprite for tonight was chosen by vote. The eyes have it.
I have emotes available to me for bad puns. I'm not using any of them right now.
Early on, it looks like Dingley doing just a little bit more damage per spell.
Yeah, that is about what we would expect with these levels again.
Both going for reflection.
Yep.
That was a
Penguin8r is doing some direct damage. I want to point out
30 of it.
Well, and the Cecil with the sword doing meaningful numbers. Yeah, I do believe Dingley is going entirely reflect, so that is going to give him even more advantage.
Yeah, might not even see a second big bang here with the amount of damage he's putting out.
Yeah, but we did see it over on Penguin8r. Still pretty survivable.
Yep, got that nerfed. I think that's the first big bang. Second, sorry.
But that's a shake. That's a win for Dingley.
With an official time 1:53:28, Dingley takes the win over Penguin8r, moves to 1-1 in the table. GG to him, what a race.
All of that massive divergence, very different strats, what it seemed like it was going to be very different approaches to the grind, even. They both ended up on that Mac Giant. But Dingley pulls through, coming in just about a minute and a half ahead of Penguin8r as we see the flash and the flop on his side as well. An official time of 1:54:43. That is a minute and 35 difference, unless I'm failing at math this evening.
Minute 15.
Minute 15.
Math on stream is hard.
It is.
But so close. What a well done race for both of them. Just completely different styles and routes taken, and it really was a top of the line match to find that troll of a Baron key.
So yeah, we will see if these two want to come in and do a quick post-race chat.
So, like we said, Stone Dingley going up to 1-1. He has to feel good about getting that win. Penguin8r at 4-2. Probably still going to be good enough to get into the top 16. He has no more races left in the table. But we are joined by Penguin8r. Penguin8r, GG.
Thank you.
And we have Stone Dingley as well. Dingley, GG to you as well.
Thank you.
So you two wound up taking very different approaches and still coming in 75 seconds apart. It's a very impressive, very close race. Dingley, I want to ask about your approach to grinding on this seed, because it looked like you were initially setting up to try and do a reaction grind before settling on the Mac Giant.
Yeah, I was actually planning on doing just one reaction fight to get Blink on Porum and to make sure Palom had Virus. I figured that'd be enough. It'd be slow, but I could still do the Mach Giant grind. And then I got 2 back attacks that messed me up, even though I had my first ring and everything. So I said, I'll just take some chests. I figured that was really going to cost me time-wise. But I figured when you're racing someone as good as penguin8r, you really have to take some risks.
Yeah, such as completely ignoring the underworld until you've full cleared the moon, which was not a route that any of us really expected to see someone taking on this seed. Was that just a concern about the hook route?
Yeah, the little bit. I wasn't too scared of demist, but I really was sitting there thinking I don't have a very strong party. I'd done a seed earlier today where I'd done exactly this Mach Giant grind with a small party and just, virus and bluff. And I thought, you know what? Like, if the only way I'm really going to have a chance is if I can grind up to Z levels here and then clear the moon, and hopefully the Baron key, which is doubly required, is lead somewhere from there. That was my only hope.
So, penguin8r, how do you feel about that that hook route and that demist? I know it was a little bit of a slog for you, but you did manage it first try. So,
Yeah, not the cleanest fight there. I think I probably should have taken Mad Ogres to get Quake on Palom. One thing, I saw the Leviathan and thought I'd be good. I didn't realize I didn't have any Ethers whatsoever, so I only had 1 Leviathan available from Bridius Limited MP pool. So that slowed things down a bit. And I think something bugged out there also. I was just going to spam Sylph, but it seems like I used 1 Sylph, and then after that I didn't have enough MP for some reason. So I'm going to have to watch that back again to see what exactly happened there. Also, Cecil bugged out and was covering 2 people who were full health, which he's not supposed to do.
well, I can't answer the cover bit, but apparently if Sylph fizzles out, it doesn't refund the MP, so it does actually have a cost. It fizzled out on one of the missed bits. So yeah, like little things that in this seed wound up making a lot of difference. The little divergences in your routes that ended up being very big divergences, and just those little bits from fight to fight.
I wanted to ask you both, seeing that starting Cecil, he's a divisive figure in these table flags. What were your thoughts on being forced to deal with him?
Well, I had one yesterday, starting Cecil also, so I was fairly used to it, I guess. You kind of just hope for a cursed ring. With a hook route, it's kind of dangerous to keep him low level. You usually want him to be able to cover in those hard-hitting spots.
Yeah, I've been forcing myself to take Cecil in these seeds, just because I figured something like this will come up. I'll have to start with him, and I'll get a circumstance like this where you really don't want to keep him low level. I got lucky that there was a cursed ring and a dwarf axe, and I still over-leveled him and got too much agility. But I mean, that's why you practice, so that in case you get a seed like this, you at least kind of know what to do.
Yeah, and you both approached it slightly differently. penguin8r taking a second Cecil and kind of balancing it that way. Dingley just plowing it through. But I feel like both of those approaches worked out in the end, and Stone Dingley was just that little bit faster. Again, 75 seconds was all the difference. And in a race like this, that is a very tight run. So GG's again to both of you.
Thank you very much. And let me say thanks to everybody, to Demarine on the restream, Bad Karma tracking, to Hupfin, Sheep Launcher. Great job on the commentary from what I heard. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Thank you for such a terrific race, and best of luck the rest of the way to both of you.
Thank you.
And yes, I guess that that wraps us up. Sheep Launcher, any last words? Anything else you want to add?
No, we've just seen a terrific race. like I said, penguin8r probably in the last 16. Hopefully, 4-2 will be good enough to get him there. A Stone Dingley certainly making his mark on this tournament will be a force to be reckoned with for anybody that he comes across. But thank you to our tracker Bad Karma. Thank you to our restreamer Demarine2. I believe we're going to head over to Commander Leonhardt. So, Hupfin, thanks again for co-commentating. It was a blast.
Yeah, same to you. Always a pleasure to do so. And reminder to folks joining us on the raid, please refrain from spoiling any of the match that we saw. I'm sure a lot of people, if they haven't watched it, they're going to want to see how this one panned out. So from all of us here with the Free Enterprise community, with Randomania, our lovely hosts letting us stream on their channel, we'll say good night to y'all.
So long.